Om Mahyanatimanasya Chidanjana Shaka Chakshunmiritam Yena Tasmai Shigurve Namah. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskachai Dasatarni. La Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
So we continue with the Bhakta class, and today we will first discuss the 4 ages. According to the Vedic understanding, time is going in circles. This is also all explained in Bhagavad Gita, by Srila Prabhupada in the purport of verse 4.1. I'm just trying to find my Bhagavad Gita. It should be here somewhere. No, it is not. Should be somewhere. So there are 4 ages in Yugas. The 4 ages the first age is Satya Yuga, that is 1,728,000 years. That Satya Yuga, in Satya Yuga, everyone was in a mode of goodness. In a mode of goodness means that everyone was peaceful, not disturbed by material desires. They were not really practically liberated. And if you are free from material desires, you can meditate. Therefore, as devotees, we must live in a mode of goodness, a clean life, and follow the principles of religion. They followed the 4 principles of religion, or 4 pillars of religion. The 4 pillars of religion is Satya. Satyam is truthfulness. The second principle of religion is Doya, mercy. Then tapasya, austerity. And charcham, cleanliness. These are 4 pillars of religion. And they had all these good qualities. Therefore, they could meditate. We cannot meditate by the influence of the mode of passion and ignorance, because we are also not following these basic principles of religion usually. Because if you break these principles of religion, by eating meat, fish or eggs, you break the principle of mercy. If you are taking alcohol, drugs, intoxication, you lose the quality of tapasya, austerity. And when you are not truthful, when you think you are the body, and you act as you are the body, that's not truthful. One should follow the scriptures and understand who we are, following the scriptures and accepting the scriptures as the truth. And cleanliness. Cleanliness, if one engages in illicit sex or or is not clean, in terms of body, does not take every day a shower, then you cannot have that quality of cleanliness. Cleanliness internally and externally. Internal cleanliness means free from illicit sex or thoughts of illicit sex of attraction to sexual activities. That external means keeping the body clean. Therefore, every day we chant holy names that cleans our internal organ, the mind, and removes the lust. But in Satya Yuga, everyone was following that naturally. And they had a long life, 100,000 years. Their bodies were also different kind of bodies. And it was that golden age lasted for 1,728,000 years. But then their process was meditation. That, like the yogis, they meditate, but before meditation, you must follow, in Ashtanga Yoga, you must follow rules to follow, the yam, niyam, to follow, not to follow. And then asana, sitting postures, pranayam, breathing postures, breathing exercises to purify mechanistically the heart of lust, anger, greed. And then you come to pratyahara, then you can go inside, shutting out external organs, and then you can meditate. It's a long process, but in Satya Yuga, they did not need to go to this process. They could meditate immediately. So the process was meditation. And Kṛṣṇa appears in every yuga as an incarnation. And he incarnated as Hamsa avatar, the white incarnation. And then in Tretā Yuga, the next age is 1,269,000 years. And in that age, some of these qualities of these 4 principles of religions were not so followed anymore, and some vice came in, and by that their mind was disturbed, and they could not meditate anymore. They were still advanced. But there were still qualified Brahmins. The Brahmins were still qualified. And by that they were performing fire yagyas. So the process for Tretā Yuga is fire sacrifices. But their lifespan was reduced from 100,000 to 10,000 years. Their bodies were also different. And it is in that age that the varnashram system was introduced, because the purpose of varnashram is to bring everyone to goodness. Because in Satya Yuga, everyone was in goodness, was not needed. But there, the need for varnashram came up. The social system with 4 varnas and 4 ashrams, 4 social divisions, and the kshatriyas, that's the police, the army, and so on, that will protect others. And the Brahmins will teach others in Vedic knowledge. And the Vaishyas will feed others and provide everything they need. And the Sudras, they were assisting the 3 others. So we see here that it was a perfect society. Varnashram is a society without anxiety. Everything you need is provided. But then the vice and the bad qualities increased in the people. And in Dvāpara Yuga, at the end of Dvāpara Yuga, Kṛṣṇa appeared. So it's that age was 864,000 years. So we see if Satya Yuga, duration of Satya Yuga is 1 on 1, then the duration of Tretā Yuga compared to Satya Yuga is Tretā Yuga is 3/4 of the duration of Satya Yuga. And Dvāpara Yuga is half of the duration of Satya Yuga. And Kali Yuga will be 1/4. Interesting. In Dvāpara Yuga, more wise came in, and there were no qualified Brahmas anymore to do sacrifices. So the process for that age was deity worship. And the lifespan was introduced of only 1,000 years. It's in Bhagavad Gita, Jambavan, he lived in Dvāpara Yuga. But he got a blessing from Lord Kṛṣṇa, from the demigods, because he fought on behalf of the demigods. And at the end of the fight, he was very tired. And the demigods said, "What do you want? You have done so nice service." And Jambavan said, I want to have an undisturbed sleep for a long time. And he was sleeping for maybe a few thousand years. But then he was waked up by Kṛṣṇa. That's in Kṛṣṇa book, in an extraordinary way. And when Jambavan came out of the cave, he saw that the size of the trees, of everything, was reduced very much. That we know Kṛṣṇa appeared at the end of Dvāpara Yuga. That's the end. And when the battle of and Kṛṣṇa's age was more than 100 years old at that time. 100 years old, 120. But he was still youthful, and Bhishmadev was 145 years old. But they could live up to 1,000 years in that age, but it was reduced because it was the end of Dvāpara Yuga. And it is said that Arjuna was 9 feet, that's 2 meters, 25 centimeters. It was quite big, but and Bhima was 10 feet, where giants in relation to the size that we have now and the duration of life is reduced. So in Dvāpara Yuga, deity worship. Interesting, we also do deity worship, and sometimes also sacrifices, but that's occasional. And it's not so effective. It's effective because it's combined in Kali Yuga with the holy name. So the holy name in Kali Yuga in this age, practically all good qualities are gone. The quality of mercy is gone because most people are not vegetarian anymore. That the quality of austerity is gone, but because everyone drinks wine and beer and all these things and smoke. And then cleanliness, illicit sex is now allowed. It's not punished by law anymore. It's okay. That's Kali Yuga. The only quality left is satyam, to a certain degree only. And that's truthfulness. But by the end of Kali Yuga, that will also disappear. So it's a degradation. So Kali Yuga is 432,000 years. And Kṛṣṇa appeared at the end of Dvāpara Yuga. And because this 4 cycles, Satya Yuga, Tretā Yuga, Dvāpara Yuga, Kali Yuga, if you put them together, that's about 4,320,000 years. That's called a Divya Yuga. And a Divya Yuga is a time, one Divya Yuga is such a cycle of these four. But these cycles repeat themselves again and again. And thousands of Divya Yugas, of these cycles, are one day of Brahma. One day of Brahma. And that is explained also in Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, there Prabhupada speaks about that in Bhagavad Gita. Because it makes a whole calculation to calculate, because Kṛṣṇa says, I spoke Bhagavad Gita also to the sun god, Vivasvan, Prabhupada calculates that at the present moment we have just passed through 5,000 years of Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years. So we have still 428,000 years to 427,000 years, little less to go for Kali Yuga. Before there was Dvāpara Yuga, 800,000 years. Before Tretā Yuga, 1,200,000 years. There's some, so because the Bhagavad Gita existed in the time of Maharaj Ikshvaku. So Prabhupada calculates, so there's some 5,000 years ago, Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son of Maharaj Ikshvaku, the king of the planet Earth. The age of the current Manu is calculated to some 305 million years, of which 120,400,000 have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivasvan. A rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120 million years ago. So and in human society, it has been extant for 2 million years. So it was spoken by the Lord again to Arjuna 5,000 years ago. The Gita was spoken before, and Prabhupada makes a whole calculation based on the scriptures. That is in Bhagavad Gita. We have also, I share a verse from the Bhagavatam, and here is it on the screen. Ketuyad dayato vishnum tetrayam chayato makai. Dvāpare parisharyanam kalotat darikirtanat. Whatever result was obtained in Satya Yuga by meditating of Vishnu. So meditation was the process in Satya Yuga. In Tretā Yuga, so meditation was the process in Satya Yuga, and the avatar was Amsa avatar, the white avatar. But in Tretā Yuga, by performing sacrifices, fire jahyas, and Jahya avatar, the red incarnation of Kṛṣṇa appeared to initiate that process. And in Dvāpara Yuga, by serving the lotus feet of the Lord. So in Dvāpara Yuga, Kṛṣṇa in his black form, the original Kṛṣṇa appeared. And then in Kali Yuga, the process is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, and was brought to us also by Kṛṣṇa in his form as Lord Chaitanya. So these are the 4 ages, the 4 different processes of self-realization, and 4 different, and 3 avatars. Of course, Krishna is not an avatar. His avatari is the cause of all other avatars. All avatars are in Krishna. So the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, when the deities of Krishna Balarāma temple were installed in Vrindavan, the Smarta Brahmanas of Vrindavan would not accept the installation as bona fide if it was not done by their Brahmins. So these Brahmanas were engaged by Prabhupada for the installation. And at the same time, the devotees chanted holy name. And Prabhupada said that this deity worship by Brahmins and so on, it's not a process for this age, but when it's combined with the holy name, then the faults are taken away, and therefore by the power of the chanting in this age, we can do deity worship. Therefore, to be engaged in deity worship, you must be initiated and chant 16 rounds at least. Otherwise, you are not qualified to do the deity worship. The same for performing jahyas. Jahya means not only the fire jahya, but also the holy name jahya. The chanting of the holy name must be always combined. And just give a hint here, a deeper study is all to understand this of the Bhagavatam is required. It's just an introduction. Now we go to the next topic. So the next topic is here. We have the 4 ages, chapter 20, the creation. So this is important. We see a picture there of all these planets, spiritual planets, that Vaikuntha planets, and the planet in the middle here, the lotus flower, is Goloka Vrindavan. And this is Vaikuntha around. But then in the corner here, you have the material universes. Mahavishnu creates the material universes. So in the Bhagavatam, the entire process of creation is explained many times. But creation takes only place in the material world. The spiritual world, there is no creation, that's eternal. It always existed. Will never stop to exist. And eternal time has there no influence. It's difficult to understand for us. The influence of time there is different. That influence of time in the material world, time changes everything in the material world. The body becomes older, changes, goes to changes, 6 changes, just by time. But such an influence is not there in the spiritual world. Time has no power to change things. It's eternal. Our spirit soul is eternal, cannot be changed. So you have the highest planet in the spiritual world, and that is Goloka Vrindavan. That is a spiritual manifestation. We cannot speak about creation because there is no creation in the material world. Like sometimes we say, from Kṛṣṇa comes Balarāma, from Balarāma comes Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Vaikuntha expansions, but that's wrong. Nothing. Balarāma doesn't come from Kṛṣṇa. Balarāma is an eternal expansion of Kṛṣṇa. It never came into being. We cannot understand this in the material world, because in material world everything has a beginning and an end. But the spiritual world is eternal. There's no beginning and an end. There's no creation. There's no change in that sense. So this is Goloka Vrindavan. Golok, that and there Kṛṣṇa has his pastimes with his most beloved devotees, Vrajavasis, residents of Goloka Vrindavan. And when it comes to this world, every day of Brahma, at the end of Dvāpara Yuga, usually, that then he brings to the earth is Vrindavan, is Goloka Vrindavan, and it becomes Bhumi Vrindavan. That and it brings eternal associates from Goloka to the earth, just to have his pastimes, to show what's pure love of Kṛṣṇa means. Because to enter the Vaikuntha planets, you must have bhakti, pure love of Kṛṣṇa, in one of the higher rasas. If you are just in dasaras, that then you go to the Vaikuntha planets, around so many unlimited Vaikuntha planets. These planets are different than the material world. They are self-effulgent. It is said they are millions of times more bright than our sun. We cannot imagine. That's it. So they are self-effulgent. There's no need of electricity or light. That the material world is a material world of darkness, but the spiritual world is only light. That you have the Goloka Vrindavan, you have all these planets around that. And then one of the Vaikuntha expansions of Kṛṣṇa is Mahavishnu, Karunodakashaya Vishnu. And Karunodakashaya Vishnu is one of the Purush avatars, 3 Purush avatars, which are responsible for the creation of the material world. And that Karunodakashaya Vishnu is also called Mahavishnu. And he lies in the coastal ocean. The coastal ocean is also called Viraja river, is a spiritual river surrounding or making the border between the spiritual and material worlds. Because between Vaikuntha and the material worlds, there is also the Brahma Jyoti. The Brahma Jyoti is like the effulgence of Kṛṣṇa's body. It's a spiritual energy. Also, the material world is created within that Brahma Jyoti, that by Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu, he lies in this coastal ocean, Karanajal called here. That and he is in Yoga Nidra, a mystic slumber. It's not a sleep like we lose consciousness of our consciousness is withdrawn into the soul when we are in deep sleep. But he doesn't lose consciousness. In this Yoga Nidra, he will create the material worlds. And this creation of the material worlds, he creates, maintains for some time, and then they are going back into his body, annihilation. That so for Mahavishnu, the exhalation and all the planets appear and all the elements that appear. That and when the dissolution is there, it goes back into his body. That so for him, the whole creation is like an exhalation. And and he destroys it by inhaling. So we see in this universe, all the planets, they are like the scientist thinks is the Big Bang. It's going further and further and further, the Big Bang. But it's exhalation of Mahavishnu. Because he creates by exhaling, then all the planets, all the universes appears from the pores of his body. Millions and millions of universes. And we are in one of these universes with millions and millions and trillions of planets in one universe. We cannot imagine how big it is. And and it creates the universal egg. The egg, it's like an egg made of earth, air, ether, fire, mind, intelligence, false ego. These are different shells around the egg. And then he enters each universe as an expansion, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Then Garbhodakashaya Vishnu enters the universe and it's very warm there. He starts to sweat. And from his sweat comes the Garbhodaka ocean, half of the universal egg is filled with water. And he lies down, and from then he expands himself as Antaryami or Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, and he enters every atom in the universe. And that is this all-pervading super soul. And then from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, from his navel, a lotus grows, and Lord Brahma is born on that lotus. You can see here that lotus, and here's Lord Brahma. And Brahma is a secondary creation. He's empowered by the Lord to create the first living entities, and he creates them from his mind. And he created first the 4 Kumaras, then Lord Shiva, the Rudras, and then so many Prajapatis would help him with the creation and population of the universe. Because that was, especially in the beginning, his mission to populate the universe with living entities. So yes, then the sun is situated in the center of the universe, distributes heat and light everywhere. So you have the Vaikunthas, the spiritual world, called the kingdom of God. And factually, everything is the kingdom of God. We are also in the kingdom of God, but in this black cloud here, which is the prison section of the spiritual world. In the prison section, you put the criminals. Those who want to take Krishna's position are there. Who want themselves to be the enjoyer, and enjoy everything. But that's Krishna's position. That's the forbidden fruit. We wanted to take Krishna's position, and therefore we entered the universe. And that's a short introduction to everything in the creation of everything that exists. The creation of the material world is explained 2 times in Srimad Bhagavatam, because everything comes from Krishna. In the material world, everything comes from Krishna. That's Krishna created the material world through the medium of these 3 Purusha avatars, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. But everything comes from Kṛṣṇa. It's just explained in the Bhagavatam. I think it's 2:933 or 34. It said before the creation there was only Kṛṣṇa, and Kṛṣṇa and the whole spiritual world. But then from Kṛṣṇa came the creation, and during the creation he maintained the creation, and at the end everything returned to Kṛṣṇa. So the effect, the cause must be in the effect. That's logic. So Kṛṣṇa must be in his creation also. He's everywhere. But we don't see him in this world because we see things different from Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa consciousness means connect everything again with Kṛṣṇa. We know that not a blade of grass can move without the power of Kṛṣṇa. We can not move our hand without the power of Kṛṣṇa, without the sanction of Kṛṣṇa. We make so many plans, but we want to make these plans, but the power to make these plans and to realize it does not depend on us. Kṛṣṇa is in full control of the material nature, Maya, action and Prakriti. And everything works according to his will. And that's a lesson we have to learn from the Bhagavatam. So now we can go to the next, the Mayavadi philosophy. Yeah. Mayavadi philosophy says that the Supreme is Brahman and spiritual energy. So they say we are not this body, we are the consciousness of this body. This consciousness comes from the soul. The soul is spiritual, so we are spiritual. We must just realize that we are spiritual. And there is no God or something, they say. Just realize that you are spiritual, Brahman. And everything in this world is a transformation of Brahman. So there are no persons behind. We are God. But if we are God, how can you become influenced by the material energy and under the control of the material energy? So they forget the point that behind the creation, there's intelligence behind the creation. There are laws beyond the creation. So there must be a lawmaker. But they neglect that. Their philosophy is not in the Vedas. It's not there. But the Mayavadis, they want to realize they are spirit. But that's the first stage in spiritual life. Just realizing that you are not a body will not bring you back to Vaikuntha. Entrance in the spiritual world can only be done when we develop love for Kṛṣṇa or revive our love for Kṛṣṇa and give up our tendency to exploit. So these impersonalists mostly, they can go up to the Brahma Jyoti between the spiritual world and the material world. So they are speculating and misusing the scriptures, interpreting the scriptures in their own ways to get their purposes. And they say Kṛṣṇa is an historical person, is not God. He was a manifestation of the mode of goodness, comes from Brahman, but is material. Of course, Kṛṣṇa says about that in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Avichananti mamudi manam tanam ashvita. That is 9:11, I think. 9:11. Yeah. Avachanti mamuda mansham tanam ashvitam. Prambhavam ajanato mama bhutamashvaram. Fools delight me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. So Mayavadis says, but Krishna says you have to surrender unto me. And the Mayavadis interpret that different. In their purport, they say, it's not to Krishna you have to surrender, but to the impersonal Brahman within Krishna. But that's not what Krishna says. So, and therefore Krishna says, Moksha moksha karmana mokhyana vishetasa rakshashim ashram sheva prakati moinim shvita. Those who are bewildered and attracted by the atheistic views in that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation through their activity and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. So Krishna says that they will not get any realization. They will not get liberation. Temporary, they may be in the Brahmajyoti, but the spirit soul is a part of Krishna, is a servant of Krishna. And the spirit soul must do activity, spiritual activity. Give up the material activity. But the impersonal says, no, the spirit soul must give up all activity. But that's not possible. You cannot stop your individuality. Krishna says in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you cannot stop desiring. The soul is always active. If it's so active in the body, then how can it be inactive outside the body? And that a lot to say about that, but Prabhupada is fighting against that. That the Mayavadis, they accept the Vedanta philosophy, and they have their Vedanta aphorism, the Vedic knowledge in a very cryptic way. Vyasadeva compiled Vedanta. But to understand, it's so cryptic, like Aham Brahmasi, I'm Brahman, of Atata Jihyasu. Now is the time for inquiring about Brahman. Ata, yeah. And Janmadhyasya. The Absolute is the source of everything. That Janmadhyasya. But what is this source of everything? That's explained in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is a commentary, bona fide commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And the first aphorism is Janmadhyasya. That is, everything comes from the absolute truth. And the first verse of the Bhagavatam starts with Janmadhyasya yatam vayati tarata tatsakta sabhihyas vratene brahmaridaya atke kavayi moyanti atsuraya. So there the absolute is described as Kṛṣṇa, who is completely independent, full of knowledge, and he gave the Vedas to the heart of Brahma, and so on. That is described in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam really explains the correct understanding of the Vedanta Sutra. That the problem with the Mayavadis, as Jiva Goswami, one of our acharyas, explains, is because in the Bhagavatam it is said, Vedanta tattva vidas tattvam jnanam advayam prameti paramatmeti bhagavan iti sapyate. The absolute truth has three aspects: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So the impersonalists think the God is Brahman. But no, Brahman is only the sat feature of the absolute truth. Is understand the eternal aspects. But then you have to go to Paramatma is a higher understanding. Kṛṣṇa is all pervading everywhere, in the material and the spiritual world. And then Bhagavan is the complete aspects, which include Paramatma and Brahman. Bhagavan is full of ananda, spiritual pleasure. And this spiritual pleasure is called Bhakti Ras. And only the devotees can connect with this Bhakti Ras. How to do that is in Bhagavad Gita, Mahatmastu Mahaprata Devim Pragatyashata Nanyanosa Manasa. Yeah, anyway, I forgot the last, but it means the Mahatma knows how to connect with the spiritual energy through devotional service and get this enjoyment, this Bhakti Ras. And now, how to do that? Satatam Kyartyantam Yatantasa Tretā Vrata. With great determination, always chant the glories of the holy name, of the Supreme Lord in the form of his holy name, his pastimes, and so on. But that is what the Mayavadis miss. They think Brahman is everything. But Shiva Goswami says we have Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is the full realization of the absolute truth. Then Bhagavan has his energies. So the material world has his energies. Kṛṣṇa speaks about that in 7 form material energies, Bhagavad Gita. That Bhumirapanalapayar Kamana Buddharivsha Ankarityam Ebina Prakatyastita. Earth, air, ether, fire, water, mind, intelligence, false ego. These are my 8 separate material energies. And then Kṛṣṇa says, Aparyan itastvamyam prakatim vidamebram. Above that, besides that, there are the spiritual energy, the living entities, the souls. So the material world is a combination of the spiritual energy and the material energy, but both are energies of Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa explains that in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Kṛṣṇa says yes, that there is a conditioned soul and a liberated soul. Liberated soul is in the spiritual world, conditioned soul is in the material world. But then Kṛṣṇa says in the next verse, but I'm above the spiritual and the material world. I control both energies. So everyone is controlled by Kṛṣṇa's energy. In the material world, we are controlled by the material energy. In the spiritual world, by the spiritual energy. But when we're controlled by the spiritual energy, we are connected with Kṛṣṇa, and we are connected with his ananda, with his spiritual bliss, bhakti ras, as experienced every moment by the residents of Vrindavan, or by the pure devotees of Kṛṣṇa. These are some words about the Mayavadi philosophy, and that evolution and science we will speak about next time. So please let me know if you have any comments, questions.
Thank you, Maharaj, for such a nice class. And Maharaj, so why this Mayavad philosophy is sometimes very convincing to a lot of people? What is the reason behind it?
The reason behind it, because it is based on an illusion that pervades the entire world, entire material world. What's the difference between the material world and in the spiritual world? In the spiritual world, everyone is conscious of Lord Narayana Kṛṣṇa, God. In the material world, we have all forgot Kṛṣṇa. So the scientists, they come up with their laws, with their theories, but there's never God in the picture. God is out of the picture. They see the laws, that not the intelligence that realized it behind. They study the body, how it works, but what makes it working? And what maintains it, these laws? That it's such a great intelligent design that how can that work on itself? It's not possible. But everyone is in illusion, and therefore they are cooperating with the atheist, with the scientist, who say we want picture got out of the picture, and that mood is all pervading in this world. Like before, in India in the Vedic times, we have the Kshatriyas and the Brahmins. The Brahmins were instructing everyone in the Vedic sciences, and they instructed everyone we have to do sacrifice. The purpose of sacrifice is to satisfy Vishnu. But today, in India today, it's secular government. All religious symbols, everything must be removed from the schools, everything out. That everything's secular. And that is all over the world. And that there are, even in China, they don't have a Chinese word for God. It's not in their vocabulary. Can you imagine that? And impersonalists, they come to that same point, that the scientist says everything comes from a big bang, from a void. And the Bible says, yes, everything comes from Brahman, from a void. And they cannot explain what Brahman is. But the problem is that they cannot explain, like Jiva Goswami said, Kṛṣṇa is his energies. But where are the energies coming from? They cannot explain. But we can explain. It's explained in the Bhagavatam. The source is Kṛṣṇa. How he creates the material world is all described. Therefore, for most people who are scientists, who are atheists, these Mayavadis are their friends. They are cooperating. Therefore, the first one who came to the West was Vivekananda. And he propagated especially this Mayavadi doctrine. That although he was aware that there was also the Vaishnava position. And therefore, since the beginning, the West was thinking, that in India they have this Advaita philosophy, that everything is one, but that was not true. That was a certain part of the Brahmins and so who were impersonalist. But impersonalist is not bad, but Mayavadi is bad. That we have the Brahmavadis that are also impersonalist. Brahmavadis, they don't say that Kṛṣṇa is material, that is spiritual, but they make the mistake to say that Brahman is higher than Kṛṣṇa. And that's a mistake. They don't know what's supreme. That's a kind of spiritual ignorance. But they are not saying that Kṛṣṇa is an historical figure made of material energy, created by the material energy. Because the Mayavadis say that everything in this world has variety. So on the spiritual platform, there cannot be variety. That everything is one. So give up this variety, this duality, and you merge with that. But no, the Bhagavatam says the cause of the variety in this material world, also the Bhagavad Gita, is the spiritual world. Because in the spiritual world there is variety here, but it's a perverted reflection. The banyan tree, which in chapter 15, Bhagavad Gita is explained. Prabhupada explains how the variety. If there is so much variety in the material world, what for variety must there be in the spiritual world? Okay, I think our time is over. So
Thank you, Maharaj.
for next week, like I said, on Monday and Wednesday I have to travel. So if we can have the class on Bhakta class on
Thursday?
No, Tuesday, if that's okay.
Okay. Yes, sure, Maharaj.